360 degrees. High, 360 degrees. High, 360 degrees. High.
All right, Miyuyum Cho Onum and Namokium to Full Circle, your cultural affairs radio magazine, produced by members and graduates of the First Voice Apprenticeship Program, broadcasting from right here at KPFA in Huichin, occupied Ohlone Territory, also known to settlers as Berkeley, California. And this week on Full Circle, we'll hear about 2 days of action happening June 2nd and June 3rd that will be calling out Microsoft and their AI data centers as harmful to our communities. And in the second half of the show, we'll talk about the upcoming QuackMap Queer Women of Color Film Festival that is coming to San Francisco. That's tonight on Full Circle. I'm your host tonight, Free Will and Franklin. I'm coming to you from downtown Antioch. This is occupied Bay Miwok territory. Keep it locked right here to KPFA. All right, Miyuyum, Noshin Lovik, my heart is good. Thank you for joining us tonight on Full Circle. And to kick off this show tonight, I want to bring your attention to 2 days of action that are coming up next week, June 2nd and 3rd. This will be 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., and these actions will be calling out Microsoft and their AI data centers as harmful to our communities. And not only does Microsoft and AI data centers contribute to the kidnapping of our friends and family and our neighbors at the hands of these Gestapo goons known as ICE, but Microsoft and their AI data centers also contribute to the vast cloud computing technology to help power the genocide in Gaza and to power the artificial intelligence targeting system used by Israel to carry out their genocide. And these data centers have also been facing a lot of controversy here at home in the States, not only for taking up huge swaths of land in some cases, but also for consuming incredible amounts of resources, including fresh water and energy. And this has been significantly straining to local power and water supplies, power grids and water supplies. Some calculations say that by 2030, AI operations alone are projected to emit up to 44 million metric tons of CO2 annually and consume over 1.1 billion cubic meters of water, and severely challenging corporate net zero targets, which we will be talking about. And again, some of the most staggering numbers regarding AI data centers are the environmental impacts, including 3 critical areas, like I mentioned: electricity usage, water consumption, and CO2 emissions. And this mass energy consumption often contributes to increases in energy rates in local communities. There's even actually some talk of data centers being powered by mini nuclear plants in some cases, or gas powered energy plants. So coming up next to talk about these upcoming days of actions and why it's important to look at what Microsoft is doing with their technology and expanding these data centers is Valerie Sizemore of Stop AI, which is an organization aimed at resisting the negative impacts of AI and are helping to educate the community, like tonight, joining us here on Full Circle. So sorry for my long-winded intro, Valerie, but thank you for joining us tonight on Full Circle.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Well, let's talk about first, why are you focusing on Microsoft and their data centers?
Yeah, so we're focusing on Microsoft because they're in town for their Build conference. It's their annual developer conference, which this year they're trying to sell AI products at. Um, and in addition to that, Microsoft at one time had climate commitments to trying to reduce emissions or switch to renewable power. But of course, as you pointed out, these AI data centers are hungry, insatiable appetites for water and power. And so it's like they just forgot that they made those commitments. And so we're want to hold them to it, remind them that they made them, and we expect them to keep them, even if it's hard.
Well, let me read a couple more of the numbers because research from UC Riverside estimated that asking the AI model of roughly 20 to 50 queries trying to come up with the answer for you can consume up to one standard bottle of fresh water. So that's kind of like a visualization for folks. And over 66% of recent data center development is located in water stressed areas such as the Colorado River Basin and Texas, where a single facility can drain hundreds of millions of gallons from local watersheds. Also, a single modern AI data center can draw as much power as 100,000 to 200,000 homes. So I wanted to ask you, what is Microsoft's answer for this massive consumption? What are they going to do to power their data centers? Where are they going to get their water?
So in terms of power, they don't have good answers to either of these questions. Like most other companies, they are scrambling to source enough energy. And so a lot of their solution is to install miniature power plants at the data center that burn gas or whatever. So there's a pollution problem directly in the communities where these are located, in addition to sucking water and increasing utility rates, and noise pollution, which is another thing that I just want to throw out there. They're very noisy, and so it's bad for the wildlife, it's bad for the people from that angle. But they don't have a plan to really source these resources. So for power, yeah, they're also spewing particulate matter into these communities. There's also a thing that I want to throw out there around the water usage, where a lot of them, they claim that they use closed loop cooling systems, which is in some cases true, or maybe something they plan to do eventually. But there's two things about that that are not so mentioned, which is that if you run a closed loop cooling system, these use significantly more power, up to 30% more power. So you're really just trading off one issue for another. And then the other issue that we're seeing, even in data centers that have closed loop cooling systems, is they add stuff to the water to like not corrode the pipes and whatnot. And that backflows into the city water system sometimes, unless they're very on it about their procedures, which they're often not, because there's so much time pressure trying to grab the money as fast as they can and cut corners. So yeah, they don't have good plans for where they're going to get these things and are just scrambling. And of course, you mentioned it, but the pie in the sky one is to put small nuclear reactors in these data centers, which is it's a solution in one way, but it creates all kinds of new problems that I don't think anyone wants at the same time.
Yeah, what's better than one big one, a bunch of little ones? Yay.
Yeah.
And whenever I hear someone talk about a closed loop system, I try to describe it. I don't know how many people actually deal with radiators in their car anymore, but that's like a closed loop system. And have you ever had to open the radiator on your car or dump the water out and see how brown and murky and nasty it ends up getting? And what do we add to our car? This just happened to me this last week. In fact, I cannot drive my truck right now because it has a leak in its closed system, and it's spewing and steaming coolant and antifreeze and other stuff that's in my pipes that I put in there to not rust out my engine and stuff. So you could try to think of a closed loop system that way. Where does that water eventually has to be changed and drained out? It's going to be polluted and nasty water that's going to have to go somewhere. But let me let you move on, Valerie, to these days of action so we don't lose folks in what's coming up. I didn't notice at first, but it's 2 days of action. So tell folks what to expect on June 2nd and 3rd, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Fort Mason Center, and tell us why you're doing it these 2 days at the Fort Mason Center.
Yeah, these 2 days, as I mentioned, will be the Microsoft Build Conference, where developers from all over the world will be in town to listen to AI advertisements from Microsoft. So our idea is to hold up some signs and pass out flyers in front of and around the center to raise awareness for this issue, and that maybe some of the people giving Microsoft money should also consider holding them to their climate commitments.
All right. And so if people show up, they could bring their own signs and carry their own signs. Are you guys providing signs or?
We will have signs. There will also be, at least one of the days, Azure Against Apartheid will also be there protesting. I don't think both days. So yeah, you can bring your signs. You can also, we will have ones available.
All right. And again, let me ask you, do you have demands? What are you asking of Microsoft when they talk about when you talk about their data centers and their AI?
Yeah, we have 3 demands. The main one is just to honor their own climate commitments, the one that they made publicly, which ought to be just very simple for them to do. The other one is to stop building data centers powered by fossil fuels, so that they should, and to stop putting these industrial facilities next to communities without their free, prior, and informed consent.
Yes, definitely. And we've definitely seen pushback with data centers. In fact, I'm here in Antioch, California, and directly to my east over here, the city of Oakley just had their battle with the community about a data center being part of a new development that they were proposing to build right not far from my home on the border of Antioch and Oakley. And what they did so far was exclude the data center part of the project. So it's close to home. I've heard rumblings of maybe bringing one to Antioch. So we'll see where it goes. Valerie, let me give you a chance to share your own thoughts and your own personal history on why I'm talking to you right now. What got you into environment, fighting for the environment, fighting against these data center development? What's your journey to this point here?
Yeah, so I've actually been concerned about artificial intelligence for a very long time. I did my undergraduate thesis degree in mathematics, and I did a thesis project on artificial creativity. This was back in 2010. And so I expected a lot of this things we're seeing. I moved to Berkeley, California to get involved in doing things about AI back in 2012. And so, yeah, I would like to have a planet to live on, going forward. And I think AI really threatens that on many levels. The climate aspect is just one of them. There's also the warfare aspect. Automating warfare could kill us all. Putting it in education and de-skilling people and gradually disempowering the humans so that we're no longer able to do things for ourselves could also really threaten our continued survival. So I've been trying to look for all the opportunities I can to do something about that.
Well, thank you for that work. And again, that's the voice of Valerie Sizemore of Stop AI, an organization aimed at resisting the negative impacts of AI, also helping to spread awareness throughout the community about those negative impacts and how to fight back. And I'm glad you're doing this. I'm glad that no Azure for apartheid and hopefully no tech for apartheid will be part of this action. Again, this is going to be 2 days of action, June 2nd and June 3rd at San Francisco Fort Mason, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., where they will be holding signs. And what is the Microsoft event again that you're going to be at?
The Build Conference.
The Build Conference. So they will be outside, and that's an outdoor or indoor event?
The event itself is indoors, but we will be sort of around the gates to the property.
All right. Well, again, Valerie Sizemore, thanks for the work that you're doing, and good luck out there on June 2nd and 3rd. And where can folks find more information if they want to follow what's happening with Stop AI or any more actions around Microsoft and data centers?
Yeah, so for Stop AI, our website is stopai.info, and stand.earth is a website that's involved in this. Yeah.
And I think I had the other one here. It was Microsoft Lies. MicrosoftLies.com is the flyer, the website on the flyer. All right, Valerie, we were just about to say goodbye, but you said you had an update about some of the folks that are a part of your organization. Tell us what happened and what's going to happen early next week.
Yeah, so about a year ago, some of my organization locked themselves to the doors of OpenAI in protest of continued development of these systems, and they have been trying to go to trial to get to use the necessity defense. And we just got word that that's starting on Monday. We have a courtroom. So at 8 a.m., we're going to hold a press conference at the Civic Center in San Francisco. And then there'll be a trial going on next week and possibly into the following week to try to find out if we were justified in blocking the doors to try to save the world.
Definitely. Again, that's Valerie Sizemore of Stop AI, and they will be out at Fort Mason in San Francisco, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., June 2nd and June 3rd. Bring your sign about data centers, about AI, Microsoft, their use of cloud technology in Palestine, for data centers in the environment, or for ICE. It's all connected.
Exactly.
All right. Again, thank you again, Valerie.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you having me on.
No problem. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back here on Full Circle.
Our inbox is flooded with Americans saying they don't watch the news. They listen to our songs instead, since your media is full of shit. Let's keep it 100 and talk reality. 5,000 years of Persian soul, of poetry and light. You sold nuclear threat to every camera in sight, but our leader said nukes are haram on record clear. The real atomic arsenal, Tel Aviv, my dear. The IAEA in the building, they've been watching the file. Israel's undeclared warheads stacked up mile by mile. You weaponized the fear of Iran to fund the machine, while AIPAC lobbied Congress and pocketed your team. While soldiers bleed for Bibi's dream. Your son-in-law cashed $2 billion from the Saudi regime, Kushner. Your lobby chain is tight as choking out the globe, while your son is trading stocks inside his velvet robe. Baron. Wake up, America, open your eyes to the devil's design. Epstein, pedophile ruler, sacrificing for Israel's line. Wake up, America, open your eyes to the devil's design. The world's watching your move. Don't feed the swine. Epstein's Island, 40 plus flights on the log. You the main character, Jeffrey was just a prologue. You act like a savior, but you're leaving bodies cold. How many nations have you broken? How many lies have you sold? Vietnam, Japan, Korea, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Panama, Syria, Germany, Serbia, Indonesia, Cuba, Sudan, Pakistan, Egypt, Jordan, Palestine, Lebanon, Yemen. We're bringing you freedom, bro. They never asked for that. Retribution is coming with a storm you can't tame. Iran doesn't forget, and we're coming for the game. Spoiler alert. Israel's final war? It's against y'all. Take it seriously before it's too late. They're just using you for now. Want to see the real truth? Watch how they talk on Jesus. Don't say I didn't warn you. Wake up, America.
All right, Free Will and Franklin back at you here on Full Circle KPFA Radio. And coming up next, we're going to be talking about the Queer Women of Color Film Festival that is coming to the Bay Area. This will be the 22nd Annual International Queer Women of Color Film Festival and will take place from June 12th to June 14th at the historic Presidio Theater in San Francisco. And this multi-day event is fully accessible and completely free to attend, and that includes 34 curated films, filmmaker Q&As, and community celebrations. And joining us to talk more about the Queer Women of Color Film Festival and the day's events are Kibo Drew, and she joined QuackMap. I haven't mentioned what QuackMap is, but that's the Queer Women of Color Media Art Project. And Kibo joined that in 2007, and she also conceived one of QuackMap's signature presentations, Reels of Resistance. Film is social justice activism. And Kibo is a filmmaker, a writer, a dancer, and she is the writer and producer and director of Ain't I a Woman? Thank you for joining us tonight on Full Circle, Kibo.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, thanks for joining us. And also joining us is Madeline Lim, and Madeline is an award-winning filmmaker with over 25 years of experience as a producer, director, cinematographer, and editor. At the age of 23, Madeline escaped persecution by the Singaporean government for her organizing work as a young lesbian artist and activist. 10 years later, she created the award-winning documentary Sambal Belacan in San Francisco, 1997, a film that is still banned in Singapore for its exploration of race, sexuality, and nationality. And as one of the small number of queer women of color filmmakers on the International Film Festival circuit in the late 1990s, Madeline saw that only queer women of color could tell their own authentic stories. And QuackMap, which is the Queer Women of Color Media Arts Project, is the result of her vision, and she founded the organization in the year 2000 with the belief that a community of artists, activists, filmmakers could change the face of filmmaking and the social justice movement. Wow, Madeline. Well, thanks for joining us, Madeline. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Frank. I am very excited to be here speaking with you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very excited to hear more about this from both of you. I've learned a lot through film, whether they're documentaries or even Hollywood films that I could see into the past from, because I watch a lot of old films. So I feel like film is a great way to educate, and it could be the edutainment where you're learning and having a good time. So I appreciate film, and I know it's important. So let's get more into it, because I'd like to learn more about the history of it. So I think I would start with the history with you, Madeline. I know what we're about to talk about comes true in different ways. But tell us about your thoughts of queer women of color telling their own stories. And I say that coming from a place where, as in your bio, people from marginalized communities often have to authentically tell their own stories in order for people to really hear them. So tell us about your vision and how not just QuackMap, but the film festival, the Queer Women of Color Film Festival, was born.
Absolutely. When I was growing up and, growing up halfway around the world, I did not see myself represented in film, in any media at all. And, and this was pre-internet, n- you know, pre-social media. Um, Books about LGBTQ communities were banned in the country. And so there was no way for me to learn about what it means to be queer. And so for me, film is so important. It is such an important medium in terms of being able to affirm our own experiences, our lives, our communities, and really see ourselves reflected on the big screen and know that we're not alone. Like, I think bottom line, it's really about the fact that we're not alone. Um, when I made my documentary Sambal Balachan in San Francisco in 1997, I my film screened at a number of different film festivals around the world, and I found myself, regardless of whether it was an LGBTQ film festival or an arts film festival or a person of color film festival, I was among one handful of queer women of color filmmakers. And so that was when it occurred to me, if we are not the ones telling, making films and telling stories about our own lives, our own communities, our own experiences, who will? And if someone else does, like, do they actually have the cultural competency to be able to do that well? And so that was how QuackMap came to be. And, as a single filmmaker, an individual filmmaker, I knew that I could make one film reasonably once every 3 to 5 years, because filmmaking is an extremely expensive art form. It takes a lot of fundraising to complete a film. And so for me, I wanted to make films, and I also wanted to figure out what was the best way to create change in this field. And so one of the ways of doing that was really to teach. And I was trained as an educator, and I went through, film program at San Francisco State University. And that, for me, that was, if I can teach 40 participants and put filmmaking skills into their hands, then in 10 years' time, I would have taught 400 participants. And in 20 years' time, I would have taught 800 participants. And that, to me, was the way to really shift and move the needle in terms of, making sure that this field really represents who we are. And so, after 26 years, we have over 515 films that have been created now through our filmmaking workshops that are all created by queer and trans people of color, in our communities. Um, and the key reason for doing that is because Hollywood studios are not coming and knocking on our doors to give us those opportunities. They may be whining and dining, graduates from film school, but they're not us. Right. And so it was really about making sure that our community got those opportunities. And if we were one of the ones that had to figure out how to do that, then that was what we did.
I wanted to give Kibo a chance to answer that as well. Kibo, what are your thoughts on the importance of, telling our own stories from our communities?
Ooh, it is so incredibly important to be able to tell your own story your way. You know your culture, you know your history, you know your traditions. I think Denzel Washington talked about it in one of the interviews about Fences, I believe it was, and he was talking about culture, and that was something that the playwright August Wilson understood. That was something that the film director understood. That was something that all the actors understood. So being able to tell your story your way becomes really important. I mean, we see it in things like Sinners, right? Really diving deeply into a culture. And there's so many cultures that don't get the opportunity to tell our stories, right? Including queer culture and queer of color, queer and trans folks of color. I'm thinking about one film in particular. QuackMap did a workshop for LGBTQ Muslims of color in partnership with the Arab Resource and Organizing Center. And there was one film that came out of it that explored, a part of the film explored partition and what had happened between India becoming Pakistan and Pakistan becoming Bangladesh, East Pakistan becoming Bangladesh. And like that was an important part of history. And reading about it was one thing, but hearing the story of someone's grandparents and what they actually went through meant that the next time you watch a Hollywood film and the Pakistanis are all the bad people, right? Because that happens very frequently. Then you've got, wait a minute, there's this other story that I know about this history and this group of people and their culture that completely upends this kind of narrative I'm seeing out of Hollywood. And so us being able to tell those stories gives us more complexity, gives us more depth, and really allows us to tell really human stories. So That was really important to me when I made my film as well. I'm talking about not just Black queer women who are cisgender, but also Black trans women, and really exploring what it looks like um, throughout history. Because one of the first ever Black women to testify in front of the US Congress was a Black trans woman testifying about the Memphis massacre that happened in 1866. So, really getting into that history and exploring what it is, especially sexual assault for Black women, was important to me, not in terms just in terms of my family history, but my own personal history and being able to bring that story to the forefront.
Thank you, Kibo. And yeah, I feel like being able to tell your own story has definitely been a part of my life and my radio journey when I was able to share about my addiction or about growing up off a reservation and trying to like claim my native identity. So very important, very important. Well, I want to continue talking about some of the history of the Queer Women of Color Film Festival and kind of the radicalness and the progressiveness of the film festival and how that's transpired throughout the years, and especially now when it's needed so tremendously at this time. So let's go to Kibo. Talk about the history of the Queer Women of Color Film Festival, and maybe you can mention some of the radical ideas or radical films that have been brought through the years, and why is it important to be able to have these radical ideas?
Matt doesn't talk about this a lot, but I'll let her talk about it later. Um, it's really important, I think, especially among folks of color, we don't often hear each other's stories. So that's part of, an education system that doesn't tell us like what's happening for folks. But to be in a space where you've got, this year we've got a film about Audre Lorde. It's a 31-year-old film. It's been newly remastered, newly restored. And, she's an incredibly important writer, poet, mother, cancer. She died of cancer, survivor, activist, and to be able to put her work into context with younger people and the kind of ideas that she had about feminism and joining together with people from around the world, that actually makes it possible for not only for us to have the conversation, but for people to also have a sense of hope. Like we can actually do something to change the world. So part of what film allows us to do and what we try to do at QuackMap is we actually match up our films with community organizations on the ground who are doing grassroots work so people can get involved in those organizations and actually think, hey, I can change something. Jewel Gomez, who we absolutely love, Mad made a film about her. And Jewel is Iowa and Wampanoag. She's actually a descendant of Massasoit, who was the chief for who Massachusetts is named. And she's Cape Verdean and African American. And Jewel talks about to be able to create a better world, you have to be able to imagine a better world. And film and these conversations that we have allow us to think not only what are some of the issues that we have, but what are some of the solutions, and really get to imagining what's the type of world that we want to be in. So, in the context of the film festival, we make experiments with the type of world that we want to have. Is there free childcare? Is there audio description? Are there open captions? Is it, can everybody attend? Elders and youth. And so that's the type of world we want to be in. And so it really gives us a space to say, this is possible, and to inspire people to think about what else is possible.
Well, thank you, Kibo. Madeline, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, to Kipo's point, I think that for us, the film festival is a like huge community event. This is where we want our community members, our allies, our parents, our children to come and be with us. And, speaking for myself as a queer person in my family, I'm the only queer one. All of my siblings, my parents, everyone's straight, right? And so, I have had to, and I'm not the only one. Those of us who are queer and trans in our families and in our culture, we have had to build those bridges and be those bridges. And so that really is what our film festival is, you know, it's a space that centers our experiences as queer and trans people of color. And then we invite everyone to come and celebrate with us and come and be there to affirm each other. And so we love it when parents come. We love it when we have films that talk about our family dynamics, when we have parents who are supportive. So, it's really important in that sense of bringing communities together.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to follow up on that really quickly because the filmmakers are queer and trans people of color. The films are about any and everything. So it could be disability justice. One year we featured a film by a deaf filmmaker from Japan and a film by Seth Hernandez, Unseen, about an immigrant blind Latino man and his experiences. Another year we have films about climate justice, multiple films about climate justice from the perspective of Native Hawaiian folks and from folks in the Caribbean and Florida. So the films are about the important issues that we are all people are dealing with in the context of coming from our community and our filmmakers. And I wanted to say one thing that is a little bit challenging is that folks think of queer and trans folks as only an identity, not as like a culture or tradition or even a politic. And so many of us had roles in our own home cultures that got lost. And so we're trying to restore those roles. Like we work with Bay Area American Indian Two Spirits. Um, We've done a couple of workshops with Bates. We've also had film festival focus on Indigenous and Native communities, and that becomes about how do we talk about um, not only the roles that we would have had in our communities, but how do we restore our communities? So then a conversation about being Two-Spirit is held in conjunction with a conversation about Native sovereignty. So that's the part of the radicalism, and which I think is just basic wanting humans to be okay with each other, right? And other beings on the planet, right? And in relationship with each other. And that becomes a radical thing, but it's also like the most caring thing as well.
Definitely. Well, some great wise words there from our two guests. That was Kibo Drew, you just heard, and before that, Madeline Lim. And they are both working on the 22nd annual Queer Women of Color Film Festival that's coming up in early June. And we're up to this point. I feel like let's talk about the 2026 film festival. It will be June 12th to June 14th in San Francisco at the Presidio Theater. Let me have you talk about some of the highlights, but not the films yet. We'll do that next. But this is beyond a film festival. There's going to be a lot of community engagement. Tell us, either one of you, we could start with Madeline or Kibo, whoever feels like they want to answer. But talk about going beyond the film festival and having this community engagement. What could folks expect, and why is it important not to just watch the films and go away? And talk about the community celebrations, as it was said, and why those are so important to the film festival.
So one of the things that we do is have a community reception. This year we're having amazing drummers come to be a part of it. And it's just an opportunity for us to come together and really celebrate and really connect in a way that you don't get to often connect, right? So many of us end up being very isolated. So the community reception that we do is an opportunity for us to come together in a beautiful park in the Presidio and also listen to beautiful musicians play and really get connected. Um, and I keep saying connected because that is the key part of the community celebration is the connection. And that's also a part of we're doing a community activation hub with all kinds of zines and ways for people to get involved because folks are wanting to do something in this moment and don't know how to plug in. And not everybody is like, yes, I need to be out in the streets. And we're like, well, here are 5 other ways that you can be involved in making some change. Um, so that's an important part of the film festival. So we're having the discussions, we're having the films, we're having the connection, because the connections that we have together is what help us get through hard times, right? And what helps us to figure out that we can get through hard times. And so that is why we emphasize connection so very much. And I will keep saying it, connect, 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 because we need each other.
Yeah, definitely. Community is something that will be there for you when you need it if you develop it. And I think going beyond film and having those community connections and networking, I feel like, and building that community is very important. Did you want to add to that, Madeline, or do you want to? Okay, go ahead. Yeah, add to that.
Yeah, the only thing I will add is that we are having our industry brunch for the second time, our second annual, and it is where filmmakers uh, who have film screening in our festival uh, can actually meet folks who may have the resources to help support their project. And so we will have funders there. We will have, editors and studios, you know, that offer different services, um, that can sort of help to support the next film project. And so we're very excited for that. I think right now we have almost 30 partners who have confirmed that they will be there. So, folks from city agencies, grants for the arts, the San Francisco Film Commission, we have SAG, AFTA, the Screen Actors Guild. We have Luke Skywalker that is also going to be there. Cheryl Donier's production studio, Jingletown Film, will also be there. So we're very excited to be sort of, again, sort of stewarding this relationship between filmmakers and the resources that they need to complete the films, because we know filmmaking is a team sport. So we as filmmakers, we need all the wraparound services. So that is, I'm very excited about that piece.
Definitely, and having that community of film makers to help you, especially if you're starting off maybe on your first film and don't know exactly where to go or what to do. Well, some great information there. Well, let's talk about some of the highlights of the films. I mentioned it earlier that a film festival for me, there's like, where do I go? What do I do? So we'll start with Madeline, just get a couple of the highlights that you could recommend for folks, and then we'll get the same from Kibo.
Yeah. Well, we have 7 screening programs over 2.5 days, Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday. And our opening night screening, once again, is essentially our Queer Juneteenth program. Juneteenth usually is about a week after our film festival. And so we really feel that it's important to, for folks, to have a queer Juneteenth program where folks can come out and they can celebrate being Black and queer and trans both at the same time, right? Like you can do it all in one place here at our film festival. And so we're very excited for the 4 films that are screening in that program. And when we put together short films, it's always with an intention of taking the viewer on a journey. So we always start one place and the viewer goes on a journey emotionally with, the different films, and then we end at a specific place at a specific point. Generally we try and end at some place that is hopeful or fun. So opening night is our queer and Black screening. We're very excited for that. Our closing night screening is our queer, Asian, American, Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander screening. And so this year, we're very excited about the short films that are screening there. And Kibo had mentioned Litany for Survival, which is about Audre Lorde's life and work. Which is Sunday afternoon. Sunday afternoon is a really strong program. We have at 12 p.m. Queer Families Belong, which is a program all about our queer families. From the first film talks about inception and how do you conceive, to the very final film, which is really about this queer Iranian Muslim woman and her partner who is African American, and her father who is Muslim, and how they navigate their faith, and her also being a disabled veteran, right? And so it's how do you navigate and negotiate all of these different pieces all at once within individuals. And Saturday evening is our typical romantic, sexy screening. It is sexually explicit. That's the one program that is not family friendly. Yeah, so I'm gonna hand it over to Kiva.
So I'm really excited about Saturday afternoon, which features the film Cuba by local filmmaker and artist Kim Ano, about Cuba. And we really felt that screening it, in the context of what has been happening. And the film also features one of their first kind of Afro trans government officials, as well as a community center there, and kind of all of the possibilities, right? The imagination for change. There's another film called Standing Tree from Colombia that's also a part of the program that I'm very excited about. I used to live in Colombia. And it's also about an Afro trans woman and how she's finding liberation through music. So those are the ones that I'm really, really excited about. And really, because we're tying land to queerness and transness and environmental justice. And so I think that that's a really important and fun program that I'm really, really, really looking forward to. And also to mention, even though the main body of our film festival is in June 12th to 14th, we also have satellite screenings. So we just had one last weekend with the Oakland Asian Cultural Center and the API Cultural Center. It was our Queer Asian World Cinema. We're also going to be doing a Queer Black August, which is to commemorate, of course, all of the activists and political prisoners for Black liberation. And then we're also going to have this incredible there's actually a film called The Cree Problem it's a feature-length documentary that we're looking forward to screening this fall. So we're going to be doing screenings across the Bay Area and also in Atlanta across the country as part of the film festival as well.
And before I get ready to close out with the important information about how to follow up, let me ask you, Madeline, to tell us about the encore screening that will be online for people in mid-September. Talk about the thoughts behind having this film festival in a location and going through what we just talked about, and then holding it online for folks that could watch virtually.
Yeah, for many years when we conducted our in-person film festival, we have had a number of requests to also stream it online. But at that point in time, there really wasn't the technology didn't exist. And then the pandemic happened, right? And so for 2 years, because we had to shelter in place and venues were closed, we actually then pivoted and streamed our film festival online via Zoom, because back then Eventive didn't exist yet, for 2 years. So in 2020 June and in June 2021, our film festival went online, and we had such a huge response from folks who had initially wanted to come out to our in-person film festival but couldn't do so because of mobility issues, accessibility issues. And so once we went back into hosting our film festival in person again in 2022, we were really trying to figure out, okay, how can we also offer an online component for folks who, for mobility reasons or any other reasons, could not come out to our in-person film festival in June. And so that made it really important that as we pivoted to being back in person, that we really wanted to continue to offer our film festival online as well. And so that's where the idea, of the encore screening came to be. And so we tried doing it in June, right after our film festival, and then it was just a little too much because, when we present our encore screening, we add captions to the Q&A, we add captions to, any panel discussions. And so now we actually offer the encore screening in September so that we have a little bit more time to put those pieces together, specifically because if we are making this the option for folks who need accommodations in terms of disability accommodations, then we really want to make sure that it has open captions and it has, for any and all of the pieces, right, to make sure that and audio descriptions and all those kinds of things. And so we now offer our online encore screening, also free of charge, in the month of September. And all of this is on our website. So, I would invite folks, go to our website, check out the programming, register for a ticket. It's completely free. There are lots of seats, so you don't have to worry about that. But register for a ticket. Basically, you're essentially RSVPing, so we know, a head count. And yeah, we would love to see you at our film festival in a couple of weeks.
And where would people go? What's the website?
The website is www.quackmap.org. That's Q as in Quince, W as in watermelon, O as in orange, C as in cantaloupe, M as in mango, A as in apple, and P as in persimmon, .org. And I just wanted to point out that also, because of the way we do our online encore, people from countries all over the world can also tune in. So folks from over 100 countries, from Ghana to Cuba to Puerto Rico, can tune into the film festival as well. But it's all at quackmap.org with our lovely fruit salad.
And I just want to say that there are actually 2 theaters named Presidio Theater. Don't ask me why, but this is the Presidio Theater that's on Moraga Avenue, 99 Moraga Avenue. And it is, there's plenty of parking because it's in the Presidio. There's lots of parking. And we also offer a free shuttle from Oakland to the theater on Friday evening as well as on Sunday. So go to our website, check out the shuttle as well. It is a fully wheelchair accessible shuttle as well for ambulatory people as well as anyone in mobility devices. And it's and so it'll bring folks from the East Bay to the Presidio Theater and then back to the East Bay as well. So we have free childcare. We really want, we have ASL interpreters for all the screenings. And so we really just, want people, and it's free so that there's really no barrier. Just come hang out with us, come for the films and stay for the love.
Wow. So much thought put into that. It's incredible what you all have done and what you're preparing to do coming up. We've been talking about the Queer Women of Color Film Festival that's coming to the Bay Area in the Presidio. My 2 special guests have been Kibo Drew and Madeline Lim. And the 22nd annual International Queer Women of Color Film Festival takes place from June 12th to June 14th at the historic Presidio Theater in San Francisco. The multi-day event is fully accessible, as you just heard, and is completely free. That includes 34 curated films, filmmaker Q&A, and the community celebrations. And don't forget, if you're not able to attend for whatever reason, they have an encore online screenings available in September 11th to the 21st. Well, thank you very much. It's been so eye-opening. I'm excited for the 2026 festival. I'm hoping I can get out and see a couple of them. And thanks for sharing. I'm just so impressed with how, I don't want to say over the top because it shouldn't be considered over the top, but how far you have gone to make this, as you said, not only accessible as far as money, but also transportation, any sort of disabilities. And it's just incredible the work that you are all doing. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you, Kibo.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Frank, for having us.
You sat at the table, thought you could play. I'm the greatest, that's what you say. You bet on peace, but you bet on lies. Israel's laughing with those devil eyes. 3 strikes down before the game began. Lebanon's burning, what's the next plan? Drone in the sky, shot down in Fars. You didn't play the hand, you just a card. Move! One day's deal of the century on the table. Next day you see it's just a fragile fable. Expensive soup, but the brain is feeling hollow. You're the gambler that no one wants to follow. Pick up a tweeting in caps, thinking you're bold, but your art of the deal is getting pretty old. Israel's the chef, you're just the waiter. See you in the court or see you later. Alligator! Gambler, la la la, drum, puppet, pit, 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 dump, loser, Israel pulls the strings, you're just a bomb, la 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 la. Bankrupt, puppet, pit, 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 toss, loser, Israel's the boss and you're the frost. Kalibov said it loud and clear. 3 claws are broken. We smelled the fear. You promised the ceasefire, then broke the trust. Israel's bloodlust turned you to dust. Bennett's laughing, standing in the hall. The puppet strings are snapping, watch the fall. You wanted to be Caesar. You're a circus clown in this drill game. You're the one going down. Fake puppet, bet, fall. Loser, crawl. Israel's calling. You have no call. Just another brick in a broken wall. Done. Puppet, bet, none. Loser, gone. In Israel's game, you were just a pawn. Loser, can you smell that? That's your future burning. Like a melting ice cream on a hot asphalt road. Like a button you pressed that didn't work. Done, Donald. The house always wins and you're just the janitor cleaning up the mess. Gambler, done.
All right, that brings us to the end of tonight's show. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel where I'll post both of these videos over the weekend. That is First Voice Media Official on YouTube. And be sure to share those videos on social media. We're on First Voice Media on Facebook. Shout out to the Full Circle crew. Miss M, she's our executive director. Joy Moore is our production consultant. And of course me, Freewell and Franklin. I have been your host and producer tonight. I'm also the technical director for this show, Full Circle. Thanks for listening, everyone. And remember, while you're out there, to please protect your health and also your humanity. And stay tuned to KPFA. Up next is La Onda Bajita. Good night, everyone. And it looks like I still have just a couple minutes on the clock. I'll go out with one more of these Lego tracks. Good night again, everyone.
Yeah. He posted himself as Jesus. Yeah. Then said I was just the doctor.
Fake Jesus, fake Jesus. You put on the robe and the glowing light, pretending to heal while you start the fight. I ran on this Jesus, the pure and the true.
You mocked the faith, what a shame from you. You attacked the Pope, calling weak and confused, and dropped that AI pick like you're the one who's been chosen. White robe, shining hands, healing the man. While your bombs fall on our children in Iran. The Pope stands tall, says he's not afraid of you. You keep playing savior like the whole world is fooled. You think you're holy? Nah, you're just a clown, pretending to be Christ while you tear the world down.
Fake Jesus, fake Jesus. You put on the robe and the glowing light, pretending to heal while you start the fight. I ran on this Jesus, the pure and the true.
You mocked the faith, what a shame from you. In Iran, we respect Jesus, the Messiah, the light, a prophet of mercy, a message so bright. You twist it for clout, turn it into a meme while you push for more war and more suffering. You act like the chosen, but the signs are all wrong. Playing antichrist games while the real ones stay strong. You delete the post quick when the backlash gets loud, but we see the truth.
Now we got a revolution.
Retired professor, author, and former militant Bill Ayers.
I really am grateful to KPFA, and I want to remind us that in a time when the public is being eclipsed, when the public is under attack, when anything that smacks of the commons is somehow suspect, we should respect and love places like this, and we should respect and love KPFA. Because we need places where we can gather authentically and talk to one another authentically, honestly. To me, the fact that we have this space, the fact that we have each other, you know, there's a lot of talk about what are the guardrails? We're the guardrails, and there are no other guardrails.
Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. We have to make sure that we stay watchful of any attacks, any threats to usurping our right to vote, things that we hold dear, the things that we normally take for granted. We can't be silent. People can't get comfortable being quiet, right? If we cherish our institutions, if we cherish our liberties, cherish the privileges that we have in this country, we have to be vocal. We have to be active. So it's more about what we do in order to protect the things that are important to us.
The duty of the patriot is to protect his country from its government. Thomas Paine. This is 94.1 KPFA and 89.3 KPFB in Berkeley, 88.1 KFCF in Fresno, everywhere at kpfa.org.